And would this be a good time for me to talk a little bit about how I developed the magic forest?
Sure.
Okay, and I call it the magic forest, your tropical garden or oasis, because it depends which country you're in. I don't want to be talking about an oasis, though they have them actually in Brazil. There are some small oases, but in Egypt, we talk about oasis. In Western Europe, you talk about magic forest, etc. But I began to work with very diverse populations. I worked with a lot of the indigenous Mayan groups in Guatemala during their civil war. And we were actually doing a lot of focusing because they had an awareness that I can only describe. You can't survive 30 years of civil war without awareness. The people who survived had an awareness, but they weren't looking at it to really restart their lives as the war was coming to an end. And I was there in the last few years, and then when they declared peace and so on. But what I found is that getting them to go into their bodies, since they had lived through generations of trauma, that they would often avoid that. And you have to be very careful as a white male with a Guatemalan indigenous woman suggesting going into their body. That I never worked with indigenous women without having a female translator in the room with me at all times, so there was no confusion at any point. But that, how could I get them to start having that inner dialogue and inner focus and go into the sensations and the felt sense without activating their traumatic experience of being in their body during some pretty horrendous scenes. And then the same thing happened when my wife was from India. She was Zoroastrian, but for over 20 years, we went back and forth. I know a lot about India, and I started getting a lot of Hindu clients, and especially Indians in the United States who are working for the big tech companies and very logical. They exist from here up. How do you explain focusing or have them enter into it where you can find some way of getting past the logical sensors that they have? You know, if you can't program it, if you can't electronically describe it, it doesn't exist, kind of thing. And then recently, when I was asked to introduce Erickson's work, but I also was introducing focusing in my way to Egypt, which was a Muslim society. And I can admit to all of you, I was very concerned because half the women were in full purdah, and would they have a sense of humor, and what could I say and not say, given a very different culture? And finally, I decided, you know, if I'm going to be the interaction, I have to be me. I discovered that though they live in quite a repressive environment because of the government and other processes, they have a great sense of humor and they enjoy playing. So with those three groups, the indigenous Mayan groups, they have fantastic Mayan stories. And the Hindu population, they have the ancient Vedas, which are talk about your non-conscious mind and good guys and bad guys and monsters and all sorts of things that are just part of the mythology that forms the basis for their religion. And with the Muslim groups, just being real, having them teach me, that's the interaction boy, how I needed to be so they felt respected. And once they feel that you see them, that you hear them and you value them, they totally open up to you. And they have tons of stories too. And they love playful things. So that's what caused me to develop what I call the magic forest, an indirect way of introducing focusing that you can then build on, because I believe that real progress within myself was, okay, first is that first level of structure. And once you get that, it will support the next level and the next level and the next level. So I have Egyptian clients today where I can say, let's go inside. Let's talk to your little creature. And then we follow all the focusing procedures. I wouldn't say procedures because that sounds too rigid to me, but focusing with them on how to focus their way into what they need to look at. This is kind of a foundation that allows them to feel comfortable with it and not get stuck in the things that would keep them from moving forward and discovering what it has to offer.
Your way of entering different cultures is to present a kind of story of entering into an oasis, a magic forest, and having people see what they find there.
Mm-hmm.
And you found that as a wonderful way of beginning a process. Mm-hmm. So I guess we want to see, if this is like what anybody else does to introduce focusing, or how it feels, or anything that comes up for people in relation to what you've been saying.
And I wanted to add that in that forest is a special, wonderful, unique to you little individual creature that knows everything that happened to you since conception. And it used to tell you about that until something in you started condemning it, started criticizing it, and it had to go deeper and deeper into the forest until it stopped speaking to you at all. And so on. I don't want to give away the whole story.
And try it out. And then we'll come back at 9:30 and share with each other how this impacted on us.
Great. So let's make ourselves comfortable. And you may want to close your eyes or not. And just breathe comfortably, whatever that means to you. And notice where you're sitting, how you're being supported. Perhaps your feet are on the floor. Whatever feels right for you. And as you breathe in and out, isn't it nice to know that each one of us is wonderfully and totally unique? Now, we were conceived, or even before our conception, we were conceived in each one of us, me, you, us, received a gift, our own special internal magical gift of a magical forest. It's magic because it's a forest that contains every single second of your life on every level, knowingly and unknowingly. A record of everything on so many levels. That's right. That ever happened to you. Everything in this life, and some say in other lives, I don't know, but you will know. All of this, plus much, much more, makes up our magical forest. In this wonderful, fantastic, mystical, and beautiful forest lives your own very, very special little creature. Your creature has access to every single second. Your creature has access to every event you've ever lived. Access to every molecule that is you and becoming you. Access without something being wrong, something being good, something being bad. It is the guardian of the universe of information that is uniquely you. Past, present, and future. Your creature, your wise self, your inner wisdom, your higher self knows all that needs to be known by you. You know, your little creature used to venture to the edge of the magic forest and beyond. But over the years, your conscious mind has intimidated it. Your conscious mind has judged it, criticized it, threatened it, humiliated it, made fun of it, disempowered it. Your little creature sought refuge deep, deep within the protection of the forest, protecting itself in your magic forest. Over time, the little creature stopped venturing to the edge of the forest and stopped trying to tell you your next step in your life. It has nested deep within your magical forest. However, now is the time, and the time has come. Now is the time for you to, with kind appreciation, invite it, welcome it, protect it. You simply have to promise, but it is a pinky promise. It's a pinky promise that you will stand by it in any attempts of your mind to drive it away. Now is the time to promise it that you accept whatever it chooses you to tell you as just information. Even if you don't like what it reveals to you or like what it says, you welcome what it says with gratitude. It's just sharing information. As we sit so quietly after asking it, what's the next thing I need to know? What's the next step forward waiting for me in my life? And just wait at the edge of the forest with total acceptance. What it will bring to you as it steps beyond the edge of the magical forest is what it knows you need to know now, at this moment, as you ask that question in your life. It may take a little time as your creature must newly formulate whatever you need to know or the next step you need to take. What it offers does not come immediately. What might come immediately comes from your conscious mind. But your little creature, your special little creature, is bringing together all its wisdom and preparing to let you know what you need to know as your next step. But what you might need to know may come in a sentence. It might come in a word, in a sensation, a feeling, or an image. Somehow you will know it as it seems new and fresh and newly formed. It will feel new and different from your usual thoughts or the usual way you've looked at things. Let us sit quietly at the edge of the clearing, waiting with appreciation and patience and curiosity for a little creature to come to the edge of the forest and beyond. Tell us what's our next step. What it offers is a felt sense or a felt meaning, the information coming from the deepest part of your inner wisdom, from the center of your sacred core. Let us be open as you wait with a little creature to speak with you and present your next step.
wondering if it feels like we can come back together. If you need another minute, just take that minute. And if it feels like you can come back together and just sort of make note of where you got to in this process.